Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more months than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however, emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Good day and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Ryan Dunphy. Ryan earned his bachelor's and master's degrees in exercise, physiology, and behavior change at Rowan University. Ryan then spent years in the medical field working with patients during and after they completed their physical therapy and or cardiac rehab treatments. In his research working with those patients, Ryan found mismanaged stress to be the root cause for the vast majority of illnesses and injuries. Due to his passion to help others, Ryan went on to earn coaching and speaking certifications in order to launch his own health coaching practice. His focus? How to help people avoid so much pain, wasted time, and wasted money dealing with preventable suffering. To better serve during corporate engagements, Ryan always included a time management component with what he taught. Lo and behold, when asked to speak again, the request was to be only on the topic of time management. Lack of time management has been tied to our level of stress and the root cause of many of our health issues. If one learns to manage their time, it lessens their stress, thus leads to a more productive life. Over the years, Ryan has fine-tuned his Ideal Week system to help better manage one's time, refine their focus, and help to control the chaos in life to enable consistent productivity and outsmart burnout. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Ryan. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dwight. I appreciate you, and I'm really excited for this conversation.
My, you and I both, brother. After getting listeners, I've gotten to know Ryan over the last couple of years. He is an amazing individual. You are going to so enjoy this episode of Give a Heck. You're going to learn so much information. You're going to be rewinding it a lot, trust me. So, Ryan, one of the things I focus on, and you and I have talked about this before, is somebody's origin story. And I don't talk about it all the time on the show as much as I used to, but it's my, I guess, what would the word be? It's my frustration or misgivings with the fact that movies or book series that go to television or on a movie screen, they start in the middle, like Star Wars and Marvel have done, and then they go back to the origin after the fact. And sometimes I think they don't realize how powerful the origin is. They're always looking about attracting people with the impact, the explosion of their lives. Whereas I want to know the earliest recollections of little Ryan that you remember, because every single thing that happened in your life has led you to where you are today. So, Ryan, tell me your origin story. What key things from your childhood to adulthood that led you to where you're at currently?
I love that. Thank you, Dwight. Thank you. That's something that needs to be explored more. I feel like so many people, we live in this Instagram world of instant gratification and final products and the HGTV montage where a project is, beginning to done and cleaned up and paid for in 24 minutes. But that's not how life is. So it's really fun to explore those origin stories and those root causes of what led you up to what you're doing today and why. It's one of my favorite questions to ask people as well. So I love that. This is something that, I'm happy to share with everybody. And a lot of people that have had the opportunity to get to know, yourself included, in this personal development world of constantly and never ending improvement of yourself. And for me, that word is adventure. And I really love learning new things and experiencing new things, going new places, meeting new people, connecting other people to make the world a better place. So adventure is a huge word for me. So growing up as a youngster in New Jersey, for everybody listening, it's more than Newark Airport and garbage dumps. We are our state slogan is we are the Garden State. So there's a huge amount of corn and peaches and all kinds of different things that come out of New Jersey. It's quite a diverse state, and I was always very big into the outdoors. Being from New Jersey, we're also kind of a state without a team. So there's this division within the state of, are you a Yankees fan or are you a Phillies fan? Are you Giants or are you Eagles? Aside from the Devils, we're kind of the state without a team. So my father was not a big armchair quarterback on the weekends. We were more into camping and fishing and hiking and stuff like that. We were very active. He was in construction. So, we're always doing things with our hands. There was always a project going on. And when I was 8 years old, I was in second grade, and I actually was attacked by a rabid fox right in my driveway. We lived in a pretty heavily wooded area, and my poor mother watched the whole thing happen right through the kitchen window. So imagine a couple gray hairs sprouted in that moment of a fox sprinting out of the woods, latching onto your 8-year-old son's leg, tackling him to the ground and starting to pull him towards the woods. So in that moment, it was quite a traumatic experience. My dad luckily realized what was happening, ran out of the house, got the fox off of me, pulled me into the car, got me into the house, did our best to wash the wound when it first happened, because a fox attack on a human being in the middle of the day is not a common thing. So his immediate thought was rabies for that type of aggression and activity, during the day, because they're nocturnal. So they immediately rushed me down to the hospital, stitched me all up, and gave me that first really fun rabies shot in my stomach. Really a wonderful place to have a shot. So I got myself home, and I'll spare the listeners the gory details of how my father exacted his revenge on the fox. But long story short, he got it. So then they ended up sending it down for DNA testing to make sure it was rabid. And I'll do the HGTV montage beyond all the details, but there was not enough brain tissue left to test. So I had to do the full run of all of the rabies shots. So I'll leave everybody with that random cliffhanger. It was quite an experience. And immediately I was given the nickname Fox. As a kid that gets attacked by a fox, for all the way through high school, I was nicknamed Fox. And it was really interesting, because a week after my father got his revenge on the fox, and we knew it was no longer out there in the woods, I was healed up to the point, where I could walk around. So I said, well, I love playing in the woods, and now I'm kind of scared of going in the woods. And this was really interesting awareness to have at 8 years old. But I said, well, I know that the fox is no longer there. Is it possible that there's another animal out there that will attack me at some point? Sure, that's how nature works. But what I need to do is to go out and play in the woods, and go to the area where this fox had its den, took over from a groundhog. And I went out there and I did this on my own. And I survived. And I got out there, and I was a little nervous while I was doing it. I played in my tree fort, and I, went collecting acorns and doing all the things that an 8-year-old does in the 100-acre wood with Winnie the Pooh. And I kind of overcame that. And there was no coaching necessary from my parents to say, this is done now and it's okay. You don't have to be scared, because they're busy. They got a lot going on, and it was more focused on just healing me up. So I kind of took this upon myself to push myself outside of my comfort zone in order to expand that, because I know that nature is a huge thing for me. It's very important for me. I still have the scars on my leg from that incident, but now nature is a big part of my life, and I'm very intentional about spending time outside. And Sure, there's an opportunity for all kinds of chaos or random accidents or different things to happen. But I think that was really instrumental in my willingness to push myself outside of what's normal or outside of, beyond some of that fear. I think that's been really helpful and instrumental in that. So you probably didn't expect the story of a rabid fox to be the first thing shared on this episode, but here we are.
I love it. I love it. So, what else? What else? Is there any other pivotal moments in your life? Because you were 8 years old when that happened, and
Right.
that's amazing, listeners. Like honestly, at 8 years of age, not to be having to be pushed to go back into the woods and having the tenacity already at that age, because it is a tenacious attitude to just say, "I got to go back out there." To put
Right.
yourself in that position at such a young age, to push, like you said, push yourself out of your comfort zone, that's amazing. So congratulations for that. And I love the start of this show. This is
Yeah,
amazing.
nice, nice. Well, yeah,
what
I'd be happy to
what
share
other
one
things?
more nature
Yeah.
related thing and then,
Yes,
a
share whatever
business
you want.
related one. So
Share
when
it.
I was
Yeah.
in high school, they offered a wilderness experience where it was 10 students, two instructors, so two of the teachers from school, and we spent a full week out in the woods. So we packed in everything that we needed, our tarps, not tents, tarps, all of our food, our cooking equipment, ropes, extra gear, all of our clothes, lots of toothpaste and iodine tablets to purify our water out there. It was an amazing experience. So I did this my sophomore year. I did it again my junior year. And when we parked the vans at the trailhead where we weren't going to be back for another week, it started to drizzle. And then so we put our rain gear on and we covered our packs. And then it started to rain. And then we started to hike. We said, well, we're starting the wilderness experience today. Rain is part of the wilderness, and that's fine. And then it started to really rain about an hour away from the vans. So we're hiking, and all of us are at this point pretty much wet from head to toe. And it just keeps raining. And then it was time to make dinner, and it was still raining. So we just kind of cooked through the rain and we made it work. And we just factored that in when we were making our amazing stovetop stuffing that there's going to be a little extra water in there. So account for that while we're cooking. And then we went to bed and it was raining. And we just kind of ended up being wet while we were asleep. And then we got up the next day and it was raining. And it was different for everyone in the group. But throughout day 3 of rain, we all hit a point where we just stopped complaining about it. And we just said, it's water. It's liquid life. Aside from, the fact that it rains and we have 6 inches of topsoil, that's what everything on this planet is dependent upon, is that it rains. So it's okay. And ever since that trip, I have not been fazed by rain. I don't let it, for anybody watching this, I'm using air quotes, I don't let it ruin my day. If it's raining, I'm thankful that we have liquid life coming down from the sky. We need that. And I see so many people that they let something like rain or snow or hot weather or different things that are completely out of our control dictate how we feel. So I have the mindset of, listen, there's always going to be a rain jacket in the back of my Jeep, an extra pair of shorts, and an extra t-shirt. Number one, I have a 6-year-old son. He likes to spill things. And I am a large kid as well. I spill things on myself too. So at the end of the day, we just have to go prepared for, I'm not saying be a control freak and a prepper and, be prepared for anything and everything, but be prepared for some of those big things that are common occurrences. Yeah, it's going to rain. It's going to be cold. Some days it's going to be hot. Have an extra set of clothes and a little bit of gear in the back of your car, and then you're ready for it. So that's been really helpful of, acceptance and focusing on what I can control and letting go what I can't. Because it doesn't matter how many times I check the weather, it's going to snow tomorrow.
Right.
So I can just keep working and get my work done and say, okay, I'm going to run the shovel tomorrow morning. And that's it. I don't need to talk about the weather every time I go to the water cooler. It's going to snow. That's okay. So
It's
I
life.
prefer to start all of my phone calls because I can Google what the weather is in your zip code, Dwight, but I'd
Yeah.
rather start the conversation with what's gone right for you already today and drop into gratitude and learn something fun and interesting about you. And that question has opened up a lot of interesting conversations. So think about how much energy are you putting into something as silly as the weather? It's going to happen. So just be ready for it. So I wanted to share that. And we touched on it with the intro, and thank you. That's a really fun introduction. I appreciate the time that you put into the intentionality into that. So what led me up to what I'm doing today and why has been a fun adventure as well. So you mentioned I went to school for exercise science. I worked for a hospital for many years with patients after physical therapy and cardiac rehab. And I just, over the years, started to hit a point where I felt like I was working with the same people and the same illnesses and the same injuries over and over and over and over again. And I said, well, there has to be some type of common thread here. There has to be some way for me to help more of these people in a different way. So I decided to go back to school and went for my master's online for wellness and lifestyle management. And the first course was based on Michael Orlowski's work in wellness coaching for lasting lifestyle change. So Michael opens this book with the story of the Waterfall Village. And so I'll tell the story real quick because it was so
Sure.
pivotal, one of those nexus events in my life and my career that I love those light bulb moments. So I try to share it with as many people as I can. So there was this beautiful village at the base of a waterfall, and there's a nice lake there, and this beautiful waterfall for you to look at every single day. Well, one day somebody comes crashing over the waterfalls onto the rocks. So they swim out there, they grab the person, and over the course of a month, they nurse them back to health. Their leg is healed, and they can send them on their way. Well, a couple more months go by, and someone else comes over the falls. They swim out, they grab the person, they help them back to shore, they nurse them back to health, and they send them on their way. And they said, well, you know what? This has happened twice now. Maybe we should keep a canoe here on the beach for if it happens again or when it happens again. Well, guess what? Another person came over the falls. Oh, you know what? Great. We have a canoe now. So we can go out there, grab the person, bring them back, help them out. Maybe we'll keep some medical equipment right here on the shore to do some first aid. Great. Okay. Well, this happens again and again. And now they have a fleet of boats and rotating schedules for people. They have lights, aimed at the falls where if somebody was to come over at night, they can handle that as well. They have buoys, they have teams, they have training. So they're starting to draw up plans for a hospital expansion, a whole other wing that with, just super, quick response time for somebody that comes over these falls. So they're sitting there and they're looking at the blueprints and they're looking at the falls, and somebody says, how about we go to the top and see why these people are falling in? And it was just the most beautiful way to deliver the importance of prevention. And I said, I'm doing nothing with prevention in what I'm doing. I'm dealing with people after they crashed over that waterfall, after cardiac rehab, after physical therapy, after the Center for Advanced Weight Loss, where somebody needed to lose 100 pounds or more, a surgery where you can die on the table. So I started to get very curious with my patients to say, at its root cause, what landed you here in my chair? And obviously we have the bell curve. There are accidents, there are, genetic predispositions for different things. But for the most part, if we were to talk in broad stereotypes here, in the middle of that bell curve, it boils back to stress. So for so many of us, and if anybody feels personally attacked by this, could be a good little check engine light. But for so many people, stress will come into our lives and we start to lose sleep. And it doesn't matter if we can't fall asleep because that alarm clock is still going to go off at the same time tomorrow morning. And then the alarm clock goes off, and so many people think, well, if I hit the snooze button 7 minutes, that'll solve my problem. I'll feel better, with an additional 5 to 7 minutes of sleep. So they hit the snooze button. And then the snooze button once or twice, and well, now I have to rush because I need to get to work on time. So I'm going to run downstairs, maybe I'll grab something quick for breakfast, or I'll skip it, or, I'll figure it out later. I'll get something on the way to work. We rush out the door and we get into traffic with everybody else that's in that same mode of, I only allotted just enough time for me to get there right on time. And if everybody has that same model, then 9 o'clock becomes 9:02 and 9:04 and 9:06. And one person that rubbernecks an accident causes an accident on this side of the road. And now we're all late. So now we get to the office and we're in this big shuffle, and we get all our stuff there. And then it's like, wow, now my stomach is grumbling because I'm hungry. Oh, Steve brought in 24 donuts. Great. I'll have one of those. Oh, coffee. Excellent. Great. Let me fill that with cream and sugar and syrup and all these different things. And you know what? I'll put some sprinkles into that. I saw that on a coffee commercial. And then the morning starts to progress. And you know what? I was rushing around this morning. I didn't pack any lunch. So I'll go out and I'll grab something. So they drive out and get a 99-cent heart attack in a sack from somewhere that's a drive-through, rush back to the office because they only have a half an hour to prep their food, eat their food, clean up, and get back to work. So they've spent that entire time sitting in a car, rushing around, getting all stressed out. And they eat, I'm using air quotes again, food. And then we get back to the office. And somewhere in the middle of the afternoon, we steal 20 minutes of company time in the bathroom because of the air quotes food that we had, messes with our stomach. Then we get home and we say, well, now my body is throwing all these signals that I'm starving because I haven't had any nutrients all day long, any real food. I'm also irritable because I haven't moved enough and I'm still a little bit tired from last night. So what do? They overeat. Low quality, high quantity. And then the last thing they want to do is move. Oh, now I'm really stuffed. Last thing I want to do is go for a walk around the block. But I do a couple things here around the house, and then. So wait, do you know what the most dangerous piece of furniture in your home is?
No. The exercise machine?
Your couch.
Oh, your couch.
Kills more dreams and goals than anything else. Your couch.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
So they get on that couch, and then it's, you know what? My back is bothering me a little bit. I better just, stretch out here on the couch. And we start to get into the most dangerous 3 words. One more episode. And coming from a former Blockbuster employee in a different chapter of the Ryan saga, it seems like decades ago that you would drive to the video store, get a movie, drive home, watch it for 90 minutes, and then you were done. Now you have at your fingertips seasons upon seasons upon series upon series. You have access to everything, yet there's still, air quotes, nothing to watch because we have this overwhelm of choices. And then it's, well, you know what? They made that, fast food look really good on the sitcom that I'm watching, or they made the pizza look really good in that commercial, or they made that crispy beer on a beach. You know what? If I have a few of those, then I'm going to feel like I'm on a beach, right? That's how it works, right, Dwight?
Yeah.
That's how it works. Drinking
Exactly.
a depressant will help me feel better, right?
Yeah.
So then we get to the end of the day and say, well, geez, now I'm using air quotes again. I'm going to need some red wine or some sleeping pills or different things, or, I'm going to relax on my phone and the endless scroll of the news feed. And guess what that is? A bunch more bad news and stress. And there's a reason that all those alerts on your phone are red, all those notifications, because they grab your eyes. You see problems. And then you have trouble falling asleep. And you rinse and repeat that for years. Guess what? You're going to start putting weight on. Do you think you're more or less likely to go for a walk now, or if you're 20 pounds heavier? 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 70 pounds? Time to start going for a walk is right now. So for so many of these people, it boiled back to the stress. And I'm going to rush around. I'm not going to have a giant lunchbox full of healthy choices at my fingertips. I'm going to give my control over to everybody else. I'm going to complain about everything else. I'm going to rush, overeat when I get home, continue to get stressed out, invite all these stresses into my bed with me and my phone. These are all very, very new things in the last, we'll use round numbers of 15 years. And I'm pointing at my head right now. This is a very old operating system. This is a very old operating system. We cannot keep up with the hundreds of developers at Instagram and Facebook that are vying for your attention. And it's a big game on who can keep the most people on the most platforms for the longest, because they can get more eyeballs, more time, more advertising dollars. And it's a giant, just everything is a giant distraction. And so many people just rinse and repeat that every single day. And they get to the end of the week and they're so exhausted that, how many times do we go, I'm using air quotes again, indulge on a Friday evening and overeat and drink and do all these different behaviors that are not helping us. And then we have to rush around and do all our chores on Saturday, which spills into Sunday. And then this dread of Monday morning, and this cycle repeats and repeats and repeats. So I started to help people with their stress management and dealing with different things at phase 1 instead of phase 4. I want to be waving my sign in the river or the stream far before the waterfall to say, let's get off this slippery slope now instead of trying to do it later. How many times do we watch these movies and right before the waterfall, the person realizes it when it's too late? The waterfall is already pulling them over because of all that momentum. So I wanted to help people at an earlier phase. So the more people I worked with, the more companies I spoke with, I always added a time management component to it, like you had mentioned, because everything must exist in time. One thing that I talk about in the workshops is the power of words. So for its first more than 500 years of use, the word priority was singular, because priority means the first thing. But how many times in life do we try to have 7 first things and we feel busy instead of productive? It was like in the early 1900s that priorities started to show up in the literature. You have to have one first thing. You have to have one North Star and use that as a barometer of, are my actions and choices and energy getting me closer to where I want to be or pulling me farther away? And you have to use that North Star. What is your priority? What is the one thing that you're going after? What is the one thing you're focused on right now? So I always had this time management component. And then in further research with clients and workshops and books and seminars and all kinds of different things, one thing that I tell everybody is, spoiler alert, there's no such thing as time management. But if you manage your energy and your activities, that's really how we use the term time management, is our energy and our activities. So think about your energy throughout the day and the week. And are you spending your time on busy work and stuff that doesn't really matter, or the scroll hole of social media with no end? Or are you living life on purpose? Are you giving a heck? Are you making every second count? Are you in control of your life, or are you just reacting? So that has been an interesting wrapper or Trojan horse for a lot of conversations, because everybody wants better time management. So when I can help to deliver better energy and activity management, then we can really move the needle on some different things. So when you think about your energy throughout the day, throughout the week, one thing that I came up with for myself, and I tried it for a year and fine-tuned it before I put it out to the world, is designing an ideal week for yourself. And this doesn't have to be a micromanaged every single minute of the day, but what would a success sequence look like for you as a flow? So there's lots of people that focus on having a perfect day or a model month, but I felt like there was a missing in designing the flow of a week, because every month can start on a different day. There's a different number of days in each month, so that's kind of hard to measure. There's so many variables in a day, but we have a flow for our week. So what would make sense for you to do on a regular basis to one of the terms that I like to use is reduce the randomness a little bit. A lot of us are after having a bit more control on our lives. So where can you reduce some of the randomness? So I'll give you just a couple examples, and then I'd love to hear what a version of this might be for you, Dwight, and for everybody listening. I encourage you to make a version 1 of this. It can be very simple. It doesn't have to be this big elaborate thing, but when you do a couple things intentionally, then everything else gets easier. So for me, I looked at my life and my business and said, where can I reduce the randomness? How can I have better appointments with more of the right people and progress the right people along? So I said, well, my hypothesis is people are manic on Mondays and burned out by Fridays. So into the Calendly past events I went, and I ran a report and looked back at my schedule and looked at all these different things, and there they were. The cancellations, the no-shows, the last minute reschedules, Mondays and Fridays. So I said, I feel like most people get the most stuff done on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. There's also fewer people that are, you know what, really not feeling great today. I think I'll be back on Monday. Or those doctor's appointments first thing on Monday because that's all they had available. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday seems to be the main meat of the sandwich for so many people, or the main vegetable course for all of our different listeners. The main focus is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I said, interesting. What if I blocked off my appointment availability on Mondays and Fridays, beefed it up on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to account for all the different time zones, and see what happens? And at first it felt very weird. And I said, I'm going to make more progress if I'm only available 3 out of the 5 days of the week. Well, it's worth an experiment, right? Well, I have to have that little gremlins in my head. Well, what if somebody wants to meet with you on a Monday or a Friday? Okay, well, every once in a while I can do a one-off if I need to on my terms. But you know what? If I get 5 complaints about this, then I'll open up maybe the second half of Mondays or the first half of Fridays. And months went by with no complaints. None. So for me, I manage myself, my projects, my energy, my activities, prep for all my appointments on Monday. That's my office day. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'm doing the work. I'm speaking, I'm working with coaching clients, I'm meeting with masterminds. I'm doing these different things on the days where people are most engaged in work mode, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then Friday is absolutely dedicated to follow-up and fun. And having that structure has really enabled a lot of progress. I'm finding now, since the work expands to the time allowed for it, I'm not sending my Calendly link to anybody and everybody because I only have X number of appointments. What would be different if I did this earlier? So I'm being more selective with how I'm spending my time, my energy, my activities, and I'm getting far more done in less time. And I've had a lot of people say, I see that you only have availability on 3 days a week. How does that work? Well, let me tell you a story. And it has been absolutely wonderful. And what else can we count on as part of an ideal week? We celebrate Taco Tuesday in our house. So most Tuesdays, we have some iteration of tacos or burritos or fajitas or hard shell or soft shell or turkey or beef or chicken or vegetable or refried beans. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. And it solves one of our biggest problems. What are we going to do for dinner tonight? That problem was just solved 52 times over with one decision to celebrate Taco Tuesday every Tuesday. And my wife and my son know that Wednesdays I'm in the office from 8:15 to 8:30 because I work with multiple people in different time zones. So I need to be available. So Wednesday is my long day. Makes it a lot easier to schedule Cub Scouts meetings when we just know that Wednesday does not work for Ryan. When you set that boundary, it's like building a fence in your yard. You can use the whole yard. When you make that decision once and it solves the problem 52 or 5,200 times of reducing this randomness a little bit. I wash one of our two cars every Thursday. So I know that every 2 weeks, the car is washed, they're clean, they're maintained, they're taken care of. And one of us has a nice clean car going into the weekend. I shave on
You're
Monday
living
night,
in a
Wednesday
you're living an
morning, and
intentional
Thursday.
life. You're living an
What's that?
intentional life. You're living an intentional life, which I just love it.
Right,
But it
right.
takes work,
So
listeners. It takes
it
work.
does. Yeah. So what I want you to do, everybody listening, come up with one small version of that for yourself where, especially when it comes to taking control of your time, what I encourage you to do, this is an exercise I give everyone, is 1% for number one. So 1% of 24 hours comes out to between 14 and 15 minutes, but you're worth it. So we're going to round up to 15. And what I want you to do is take 1% of the day to do something that makes you happy. It's not a time to catch up on email or pick up the dog poop. This is to do something nice for yourself. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes midday, 5 minutes in the evening. But when you think about what you could do with 1% of the day and how that's going to positively impact the other 65% of the day that you're awake, because we want you to sleep for a third of your life. So you need to do something for yourself, and everybody else is going to get the best version of you when that happens. So think about what an ideal week would look like for you. By design, this is not perfect because that would be setting yourself up for disaster. This is ideal. And hey, if this happens 80% of the time, let's say this happens 3 out of the 4 weeks, what would be different in your life? How would your stress level be? Can you pick out one day a week where this is my day to go to the grocery store and focus on shopping the perimeter because everything in the aisles is trying to kill me? Make these little choices instead of opening the fridge and saying, well, geez, there's nothing to eat, but I got chili in the cabinet. That's meat that's good at room temperature for 3 years. That's got to be an okay choice, right? So just be a little bit more intentional about how are you managing your energy and your activities throughout the week. You can be super detailed with this. You can be super broad with this. Everybody works differently. Everybody's got a different mindset when it comes to this, but finding your level of structure will enable a lot more freedom.
I love it. I've taken 2 pages of notes just from discussion of his origin, and very well laid out, very interactive for somebody being in their mindset, their minds interacting with what you're saying, because it all boils down to what I talk and preach about: living life on purpose, not by accident.
Right.
And realizing that every day we can reset, right? But
Right.
it's so much more than that. I coach on the fact that you should never have a bad day. We talked about this prior. You
Right.
can reset and tell yourself, this is a bad moment I'm experiencing. And like Ryan talked about, listeners and people watching, it's tied to a lot of stress, which we unintentionally do to ourselves. We don't even realize it until somebody helps us become self-aware. Most of us in society, most people in society, do not have the ability to understand self-awareness. They're not critical of their processes of, like Ryan said, the couch is the most dangerous thing. One more episode. Then they can't sleep right because didn't eat properly during the day, had that donut, had all this garbage. And I'm not saying, listeners, you can't enjoy life. I'm saying
Right.
let's pick times within our life that we're intentional about having that donut, right? Or let's have times in our life when we're intentional about having a good weekend. It shouldn't be every weekend that you say, oh, I owe it to myself because I had such a busy week and I didn't sleep right. So now you're going to party. You're going to eat even more junk. Your body can't process all of it properly. And Monday morning, you start by hitting a brick wall right away. So
Right.
there is so many things you can do. Listen to the last 30 minutes, rewind it and listen to that again. Like, oh my gosh, I know I can't wait to listen to it again. Ryan is a plethora of so much knowledge and good information, which tied right from his early recollections all the way to where he is today. And I got some other good questions and see what kind of you're a great storyteller. I already knew that though. I'm
Well,
kind of
thank you.
interested. I'm kind of interested to ask you some of these questions and move on from your origin, because we could stay
Sure.
on your origin for like 2, 3 days. I have
Yes,
so many
again, yeah,
I have
yeah.
so
We
many
got we got
questions.
we got decades we could dive
So,
into there.
so there's part two, part three, part eight of Ryan and the Give a Heck podcast.
Yeah, it's the
So,
ongoing saga. Yes.
and there's nothing wrong with that. I've had people on board, as you know, Michelle Ogston. I had on a second time
Michelle is
just
wonderful. Yeah.
recently. Oh, I love Michelle. I just want to hug her.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
Hi,
such a
Michelle.
sweetheart. Yeah. So, Ryan, you spent years in the medical field noticing an alarming connection, as you talked about, between mismanaged stress and the recovery period for vast majority of illnesses and injuries people suffered from. Can you
Right.
tell us a story of a time in your career doing that, in particular, that really made you have that light bulb moment of clarity?
Absolutely. Yeah. Great question. Thank you, Dwight. So there was an individual, won't use his name for confidentiality, but he struggled for years with knee pain. And he was a patient of mine, and he was about my size. So I'm 6'4". And I was able to keep eye to eye with him. And let's just say he had a significant it's more of a dad bod than a father figure. He got a pretty significant keg going on, that abdominal body fat that, surrounds your organs, kind of the worst place you can carry it, right above your belt. And so I worked with him for a little while. He was in and out of physical therapy. He's been back and forth to New York City and Philadelphia for knee scans and all kinds of different insight and testing and figuring out what's wrong with my knees. Why do they hurt so much? So in working with them, I try to assess people while they're not aware that they're being assessed, because when we say, all right, we're going to take a look at your posture, we all stand up perfectly straight with our chest out and our shoulders back. And, that level of awareness is there. So I had brought him up to the front desk. We were doing some paperwork that we were going to be sending to his doctor. We'll call him Chuck for the spirit of this story. And I said, Chuck, I want you to freeze right where you are. He goes, okay. I said, freeze. That means not talk. Freeze. Just freeze. Don't move at all. I said, okay. I said, do I have permission to touch the back of your knee? He said, yeah. So he's standing there with his hands in his pockets, his big stomach pulling on his low back, so he's throwing that back. And he's standing there with his knees hyperextended. So they're beyond straight. And it's very kind of a lazy way to stand. And I understand it's just the thumbnails of us here, but if you could imagine standing up and kind of locking your knees back, drifting those hips forward because you got a lot of weight pulling at them. And I said, how about this? So I pushed his knee just forward just a little bit to where it was in alignment instead of being hyperextended. And he goes, okay, that feels better. So I said, well, Chuck, how often do you think you stand like that with your knees locked backwards? And I could see the smoke start to come out of his ears. And he had this moment of realization, and he goes, I stand that way a lot. And I said, well, I'm going to give you homework to stand to be aware of this and not hyperextend your knees. Don't lock them back and stand there, stand up on purpose, stand up intentionally. So he comes back practically in tears the following week. He goes, I haven't had knee pain for a week. I said, all right, we're still in the experimenting stage right now. I want to see you back here in a month. You got your routine. You're going to come in, you're going to do this on a regular basis. And, I was over the course of the next few weeks working with other patients, but I always got a big thumbs up from Chuck, over on his machine. And then the summer started and Chuck disappeared. And I said, oh, geez, where's Chuck? So, a month goes by, 2 months go by. I get a note that Chuck has canceled his membership. And I said, oh, geez, I did something to this guy. Now he really hurt his knees. I changed this little thing, and it's really, really ruined him. So I left a couple voicemails, I just checking in, making sure you're okay. And we get to October, and in comes Chuck with this big smile on his face, coming back because the weather's starting to get colder. And I go, Chuck, where you been? I've been trying to call you. And he goes, I've been outside playing with my grandkids, keeping up with them on the tricycle. I lost 50 pounds this summer because I was out moving and having fun. Because what we're able to do, and this is something that I try to be aware for myself and for everyone that I work with, Chuck was looked at under a microscope. Chuck was looked at through scans. And unfortunately, nobody slowed down and took a couple steps back and looked at Chuck from a hot air balloon. Look at the whole landscape. How are things all working together? It was always written off of, don't have any tears. I don't know why you have knee pain like this. Nothing we can do for you here at the Chop Shop. If you want us to go in there and do something to your knees, we can, but there's, again, air quotes, nothing wrong with your knees. So now Chuck is 40, 50, 60 pounds lighter, is more active, is having fun because of this awareness of through a microscope or through a hot air balloon. And that moment really stuck with me because I know how important it is now to look at our problems and our victories and our lessons and our day and our week, both through that microscope as well as hopping in a hot air balloon to see how everything is working correctly together. And if it is, what's working, what's not working. And one quick thing I'll add here, and I'd love to go through all your questions, is I realized at the end of 2021, I spent a day out in nature, surprise, surprise, in reflection on looking at 2021 as a whole. So this was my hot air balloon day. And I just kept asking myself the question, what's working? What's made the biggest difference this year? And I want to give a shout out to John Fenton, who's a member of our mastermind. And he had encouraged me in 2020 that in 2021, every 90 days, take a full day off. No phone, no email, no social media, no work, no this, that, and the next thing. Obviously, our brains continue to work and process things in the background, but take yourself out to breakfast, go kayaking, go hiking, go out to lunch, do something fun. Take your wife out for a date, go to the movies with your kid, do something fun for a complete day off. Like in the 1900s, when we were totally cut off, a day off was actually a day off. And every month after I did that was a massive spike in my productivity, in closed sales, in happiness. So I said, this worked nicely. So the formula for all your listeners is a very intricate formula. Slow the frog down.
Love that.
In 2022, I'm saying, well, this worked. Now I'm just gonna, 4x that, and the final Friday of every month, I'm going to be, in air quotes, off, because there's a lot working in my head to say what's working, what's not working. So in a way, the least productive is the most productive day of the month for me. And I'll be doing that this Friday of this month, the final Friday of this month, where I will not be on the computer. I will not be planning things, but I'll be kicking some things around in my head of what's working, what's not working, getting honest with myself. So I wanted to share that awareness that Chuck is, it changed his life when we slowed down to look at things. How is it working as a whole? And for whatever reason, it was missed. It wasn't looked for or whatever, but the simple, don't lock your knees back, solved this plethora of problems for him.
Questions, and you listened for the answer, then you figured out a solution instead of trying to give him a band-aid of drugs or surgery or anything else, directing to other professionals. That's amazing, listeners. I hope you're getting a lot out of this episode. Ryan is sharing so many things that I live a life of. I take off days like he talks about. I literally disconnect. There's just, you gotta do things for yourself. And whether it's the final Friday or for you want to do it on a hump day, whatever works for you, but you need to sit down and have self-awareness. And then you have to be, I find myself, the more I have personal self-awareness, the more I can help others have self-awareness of their own circumstances, their trials, tribulations. I become a better listener because of self-awareness. that listening skill makes it so that I continually climb and get better so I can serve the people in my life, whether they're clients, family, friends. So thank you, Ryan. We're gonna move on to the next question. We're gonna
Yeah,
definitely
you're
have to have a
welcome. Can I
part. We're
just
gonna
add
have,
one thing about
yeah,
language?
sure.
Yeah, so again,
Absolutely.
language is so important. What I want all the listeners to really take a moment to really be aware of is redefining the word selfish. A lot of people see selfish as this negative thing and self-serving, but what I want you to do is focus on a slightly different version of that is self-preservation. And when you take care of yourself, then everybody else gets the best version of you. If you don't take care of yourself, then you are injured, you're ill, you're tired, you're moody, you're in pain. And it's actually selfish not to take care of yourself because then you're going to be completely dependent upon everybody else. So, again, language is powerful. I wanted to throw that in there.
Oh, exactly. I completely agree. So we're running out of time. I got a few more questions. I'm gonna
Sure.
select.
We'll
I'm
do the
gonna
lightning
skip it.
round.
I'm gonna skip a few here. Yeah, we got to do a
I
lightning
can do
round so we can
lightning
get
round.
through.
I can be good for you.
Okay, good. So Ryan, you went on to earn your coaching and speaking certification, started your own health coaching practice as we discussed. Your focus to help people avoid pain, wasted time, money, and dealing, with preventable suffering. Is there a connection in your own life with family, friends, or yourself that drove you specifically to this direction?
Yes. I don't know if I can do this in the lightning round, but I'll do it as quick as I can.
If we
I
have to
had
miss the other questions, that's fine.
Yeah. So I had
Go for it.
massive awareness out. You and I were sitting about 40 feet apart in October of 2021. And we were at a conference, and the speaker was talking a lot about your why. Why is it that you do what you do? What really drives you at the root cause? And the speaker gave us beautiful opportunity to reflect on that. And it hit me that our first son, who we unfortunately lost at just 3 months, didn't have any time. And now I get to help people make the most of the time that they have because the current life expectancy here in the United States is 78 years of age. We're asleep for a third of that. So we really have 52 years that we're alive and awake. So now he will always be with me in my heart, and I get to help people make the most of the time that they have.
Wow, that is amazing. It's the things that happen in our life that help us reset. And I talk about that because in 2017, my avid listeners already know this story, but for the new people watching or listening, I lost my granddaughter, 4 years of age. That was a giant. I slipped into a depression, and it was hard to focus on life because I was having a pity party for myself. Woe is me, instead of celebrating her short time in this world and what was my reaction into it. And then, I get people asking, like Teresa, our mutual friend, she reached out to me this week to talk about that. And we were chatting back and forth on messages. And we talked about that. She says, how do you celebrate that loss, that grief? I think about all the great moments and think to myself, oh, I'm so blessed that I had her in my life. And
Right.
I'm so, and then I intentionally look at things that we've done together. I look in my backyard, remembering her being here and just stuff like that. We literally, like you said, 52 years alive. And now you celebrate the loss of that first child in a different way than most people. Most people would wallow in that. I look at my aunt who lost
Right.
the daughter I talked to you about that was killed by her drunk boyfriend, inadvertently, not intentionally, but she died. That was literally 20 some years ago, close to 25 years, and my aunt's still mourning. She's still in grief.
Right.
And you or I can help one person escape that trap mentally that they're in, we've served life. For me, we're serving God, and His wish is to
Right.
help our fellow human beings. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Is there anything else you want to add before I go on?
I would say that there are resources out there. I try to mention this at every speaking
Sure.
engagement, and I find it also helpful for a 6'4" bearded man who drives a Jeep and goes hiking to say it's okay for you to reach out for help. I, with the background that I have, totally fell into the slippery slope of emotional eating after that loss, because the visions of Legos and baseball all went poof in that moment. And why do we emotionally eat? Because it works in the moment, and then it negatively affects us big picture. So I reached out to a local hospital system, and within just a few sessions with a counselor, again, he's always going to be in my heart, but I was able to get back to my life and get back to living on purpose. So I say that to anybody and everybody. Everybody has gone through or will go through a drama or a trauma. It is okay to ask for help. Nobody is embarrassed if they have a cavity to go to the dentist. It is a totally normal thing. If you have a check engine light on upstairs, go get it looked at. Now, don't just try to suppress it. So go ask for help. It's okay.
Yeah, that is so true. I appreciate you saying that. It's baby steps. Listeners, people watching, ask for help. If you're afraid and you're comfortable with somebody else that you know that's confident, like Ryan or myself, we will help you. I will personally be on a conference phone call with you so that you can reach out and ask somebody for help, or be that person saying, "Hey, Sally is a little bit, nervous and stuff. I'm being her facilitator, her
Right.
confidant, to help her out. And she really is nervous. She's on the phone. She's really scared, but she wants to get that baby step, that first step to learning about self-awareness, to heal herself mentally, emotionally, physically. Could you help her?" And there's nothing wrong with even reaching out to that person that you can be vulnerable with, listeners, and saying, "Hey, can you help me so I can contact and do research or whatever for a professional?" You know, you got to start somewhere. It's just a decision. I know that decision can be difficult, but we're here for you,
Yes.
right? So, can you do me a favor? What exactly in detail is the ideal week system, and how does the ideal week work week formula make the ideal week possible?
Right. So I'd be happy as a gift to all of your listeners. I created a course, being a time management course. Hey, guess what? It's not a 15-hour course. You can do the whole thing in an hour. I actually decided to put it on YouTube because that's the second largest search engine on the planet. So hey, I won't even trade you your email for the course. You can just go there and take it. So you can Google or search on YouTube Ryan Dunphy, more done in less time. I have some worksheets on there if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling busy instead of productive. I do a kind of a deeper dive there. But this ideal week can be written on a napkin. You can build this on a spreadsheet. You can do anything and everything with it. But what I encourage you to do is just to start to look at your life to see, where can I reduce the randomness a little bit. This is not suffocating variety and adventure. This is like the random stuff that keeps coming up in my life. How can I reduce that a little bit? How can I manage that? And figuring out what works for you. Maybe it can start with, hey, I'm going to wash one of our two cars every Thursday. And you do that for a week. And then you add a second thing on week 2. And then you add a third thing on week 3 if you want to. But that structure can enable that freedom. So think about, where is the proper energy flow for you? What are the right activities that you should be doing? Not all activities are weighted equally. If you had only 3 hours to work tomorrow, which activities would you do? Why? Should you be doubling up on those and cutting everything else? Having an honest conversation with yourself and looking at the different things that you're doing, of what would make this week a little bit more ideal. Because life is fragile, life is short. We never know if something outside of our control is going to happen. And we need to make the most of each week. And we in society have a general Monday through Friday and Saturday and Sunday flow. You can make your own version of that to lay right on top of that framework.
Wow. Yeah, great answer. I appreciate that. I will make sure, for sure, that it's in the show notes, the link for people to find that on YouTube. So it'll make it easier. Listeners, just go to giveaheck.com/podcast, and you'll be able to click on the show notes and find that link, or just reach out to me, email me, if you know me, text me, whatever. I'll make sure to connect you with Ryan's video at the minimum. But I think you would really, level up and help your life out by connecting to Ryan directly. So I so appreciate that. So Ryan, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
I would say embrace every day as a new adventure and stop tomorrowing.
Wow. Embrace every day as a new adventure. It's true though. You look at Jeff Lavin, is how does he pronounce it? Adventurepreneur?
Adventurepreneur.
I
Yeah.
love it, right? So one of the other things that I want to add to that, embrace every day as a new adventure, is, and every day when you're embracing that new adventure, always ensure that the associations that you have in your day are good associations. And again, associations, listeners, are not just people. It's that what Ryan talked about. What are you ingesting first thing in the morning? Maybe you need to prep something before you go to bed so you have a nutritious. If you're a breakfast person, you need something nutrition. You can be nutritionally sound and healthy with something quick, contrary to what society wants you to think. Instead of buying that 99-cent whatever crap
Heart
through a
attack in a
drive-through.
sack. Yeah.
Yeah, so be intentional about your associations and what you're thinking, right? So, what are you listening to on your way to your drive to work? Are you listening to the negative radio station that's playing, depressing music, or it's depressing news that's going on currently today, right? Maybe put on a podcast, an inspirational podcast, something that can help level up your mindset. Again, plan out your day. Take a lunch. I educate and teach on this in my workshop series, where I tell people, make extra food the night before of that healthy, nutritious meal. Take that for your lunch the next day. So now you're starting your day off healthy. You're eating during the day healthy. Come home to maybe something in a pressure cooker or a crock pot. It takes planning. I don't want anybody to think this is easy, but with intention, starting out in a baby step, eventually you will get to a nice walk, to a jog, to a run, and no marathon can stop you, right? You will
Yeah.
be in charge and control of your life. So be intentional of your associations, even in the evening. Don't watch the depressing movies. Don't do this. If you want to drink wine, great, do it on the weekend. Work hard throughout the week and say to yourself, this is my day every single week where I get to sit back, chill out. Maybe if you're in my weather or Ryan's weather, you got snow outside, you wrap yourself in a blanket, you have a fire, and you have a glass of wine, you read a book.
That sounds
Make
great.
sure that book is a good book though.
Oh
Do
yeah.
not read things that are going to make you fired up, because that your brain takes forever to settle down, affects your sleeping pattern, which will go into your new week. So we could go on for hours about this,
Yeah.
about how you can be intentional with your associations, but embrace every day as an adventure, right? Involves those still having intention. So I appreciate that. So I want to respect our listeners and your time. However, before we end, can you please tell the listeners what's the best way to reach Ryan?
Sure. So I'm spending a lot of time on LinkedIn. I find that that's a great platform. People are there on purpose. You can connect with me on there. It's Ryan Dunphy. Yes, we are spelled just like Modern Family Dunphys. We are the Dunphys. Nobody could spell our last name until that show came out. I'm spending a lot of time on LinkedIn. You can grab a copy of my course right there on YouTube as well. More done in less time. Because who doesn't want that, right?
Yeah, well, it's true. It is so true. More done in less time is something that, we all aspire, but only a certain portion of us will go to work on and achieve through
Right.
good associations. Most people are going to be stuck on the hamster wheel of life and never living a life on purpose and just tripping through it by accident, right? So people reach out to Ryan. Again, I always end my episodes like this. I tell people, if you're one of those people, I just mentioned that in our conversation with Ryan, that is nervous about reaching out to Ryan directly, but you know, like, and trust me already, reach out to me. I'll connect you to Ryan so that Ryan can help you to like live a life on purpose and not by accident. So thanks so much for being on Give a Heck, Ryan. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so others too can learn it is never too late to give a heck. Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.